In this video, we're just going to quickfire through 10 anime recommendations. I'll give you a quick plot summary and some of the Christian themes that you can find in these shows, because that's the whole point of this channel. We talk about anime and how we are able to relate that to our walk with Christ. Number 10, Kaiju number 8 lives in a world where kaiju, these massive monsters, are an actual threat that governments around the world have to deal with and respond to. We're met with our main character Kafka and his kohai Ichikawa, who both have dreams of entering the very cool kaiju defense force, but they both have started out in the kaiju cleaning division. The Christian theme one extracts is this notion in Proverbs that those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense. The value that's being promoted is the desire of wanting to improve oneself more and more, and it's not just a fantasy that you've decided to chase. Everyone has dreams and fantasies, but the person who works their land, just as Kafka is trying to do as much as possible, is the method of actually achieving such a fantasy. Even though he's 30, he's not tried to cheat during preliminary testing to get into the division. He actually knows stuff about kaiju. He's an active team player, and all of this is with the backdrop of kaiju attacking Japan and the kaiju defense force having to come along to exterminate the threat. Though more importantly, there's this discussion of purpose and meaning. For the Christian, we call this God's calling on one's life, and we see that play out for the non-Christian like Kafka, because he knows that his purpose isn't just to clean up kaiju for the rest of his life. He knows instinctively, just like any other person knows instinctively, what their purpose or their function is in life. He knows he has the capacity to do so much more, and we see him build himself up and train alongside his comrades to bring the fight to the kaiju threat. Number 9, Oshinoko is an anime that focuses on the struggles of those in the entertainment industry. In the West, we understand that to be actors, celebrities, singers, etc., but in Japan, it has the added element of those who are also idols. Japanese idol culture is absolutely fascinating because you have all of these very attractive young women who are going out there performing, dancing, singing, and the goal is to try and bring as much happiness to their fans as much as they can, and that's where we find the character of Ai Hoshino, who sort of struggles with that, where so many expectations are being placed upon her, then her having kids, Ruby and Aqua, which brings even more pressure because there's this culture and public expectation for idols to be single. Then we follow Ai's children, Ruby and Aqua Hoshino, who also have ambitions to enter the entertainment industry, and how these kids also have to struggle through that. We as Christians, as we watch this anime, there is this underlying critique of the entertainment industry, with us seeing the consequences of greed, of lust, and the impact especially on kids who are growing up into this world. Entertainment has such a capacity to bring good to so many people, yet at the same time, there's so much pressure and pain and suffering that can become associated with it. Oshinoko, without providing many spoilers, also offers this really good discussion of revenge, which is a struggle that both Aqua and later Ruby start to have fester in them. And we also see the consequences of that. There's a reason why Jesus is really big on forgiveness, because we see in Oshinoko how a heart of unforgiveness brings so much destruction, especially to the life of a young person. Number 8, Girls Last Tour is an anime about cute girls doing cute things while the world is ending, which is amazing as it sounds. We meet Chito and Yuri as they explore the ruins of this abandoned city, which is very, very mysterious because obviously it looks like not just thousands but millions of people used to live in this massive structure. The appeal of this anime is not just the two main characters just being incredibly cute in their World War II era uniforms and weaponry, but the mystery behind the city itself. The girls explore more and more how the inhabitants of the past may have functioned. They find out about things like chocolate, or imagine what it might have been to fly in a plane, or in the remnants of an old power station, they find out what it's like to have a bath with hot water. Girls Last Tour differs from other post-apocalyptic stories because of how much the girls just lack any instinct to survive. Chito is the calmer and more level-headed between the pair, and she's interested in reading and gathering rations and trying to find stuff to actually survive in this world, but then she's coupled with Yuri, who drags her along in trying to have as much fun as possible. Hey Yuri, we could just share this last chocolate ration, right? Nope, I'm going to point a rifle point blank so I can nick it. Hey Yuri, did you know that books are really important to me because I want to preserve the knowledge of the past. Hey Chuto, thanks for letting me know. Whoopsie daisy, I've just accidentally thrown that book into the fire. It's very endearing in that sense. I think I watch this anime and appreciate that attitude, that it's often in life that survival is of course our biological impulse, but at the same time, if we aren't enjoying the gifts that God has given us or the time that God has blessed us with, then it's really all for naught. Of course, we should be prioritizing our survival, but we also don't know when we're going to die. If we spend all of our life being incredibly miserable and ungrateful rather than to do what God has called us to do and enjoy the things that He has blessed us, then that long-term survival is absolutely worthless. Number 7, Nichijou, or My Ordinary Life, follows a couple of high schoolers and their very clearly ordinary lives. It's one of the best comedy anime of all time and completely blows out Shikanoka Noka Noka Kosh Tantan, because while there are recurring jokes in Nichijou, it goes beyond the look at dear very funny haha. So there's a couple of groups that the anime focuses on. This triumvirate of childhood friends, Mio, Yuko, and Mai, the child professor Hakase, her robot Nano, and their talking cat Sakamoto, the tsundere who wants to murder her love interest, the teacher Sakurai who gets really easily frightened, and there's a few others in the mix too. What Nichijou does really well is take super mundane situations and to exaggerate them to the extreme, which makes it an incredibly fun show to watch. In the first episode, we see how Mio wants to desperately hide her secret fantasies with her crush from her friends, and the way she does that is by running a marathon to get back the notebook she's drawn in. We see how the tsundere trope has been absolutely exaggerated to the point that the girl wants to unalive her love interest. There's the scene where Yuko tries to get back the sausage that slipped from her chopsticks, and it becomes a battle that's been stretched out for the sake of having fun. There's never a dull moment in this anime. As an anime for Christians to watch, there's not some super deep message in the show. There are a few sus moments here and there, but overall it's a good starter anime to get into because you've got some of those high energy comedy moments coupled with a few spots of calm. If I was to talk about some Christian theme, it would be that we often say that our lives are ordinary. Nichijou's English rendition, My Ordinary Life, can become very meta in that sense because it's a joke to say that of course what's happening in this anime is anything but ordinary. The point is that we ourselves might see our lives as simply being ordinary, yet we fail to realize the amazing things that God has done for us to really ensure our lives are actually more than ordinary. Number 6, Licorice Recoil focuses on a secret Japanese organization known as the DA, which trains all of these high school girls in order to respond to violent crime in the streets of Japan. We're introduced to the extroverted optimist girl and the black-haired pessimist girl, Chisato and Takina. That's all you'll really have to go off on because Licorice Recoil is really a blend between action and slice of life, which can be really jarring because you get in one episode the two of them going out on a mission to protect this squirrel from being targeted by hitmen, then the next episode they've gone out to the aquarium just being generally very cute. It's really cool for anime girls to be taking down terrorists and the scenes are very well animated. Then there's the really cute moments where we see the bond between these two blossom into a quite beautiful friendship. Though the key Christian value, which really does become apparent by the first episode, is this notion of having a love for one's enemies. Personally, I think the Christian is absolutely at the liberty to defend oneself, and if it is through violent means, it's a necessary step in order to demonstrate your love for your friends or your family. However, Chisato's method of showing love is really cool because she's skilled enough to incapacitate multiple enemy targets and not actually go through with unaliving them. Chisato displays a love for one's enemies by using non-lethal rounds, by bandaging them up before moving on. Of course, it would be silly to do this all the time, but that general value is still there, and it is this love for which Chisato displays, which then affects the people around her. The way Takina grows as an individual to learn to care for other people, along with also developing herself professionally as a member of the DA, and it's only possible as a result of the love that Chisato has shown towards her. That's the beauty of Licorice Recoil, a slice of life action anime coupled with themes of love and friendship. Number 5, Sosuno Frieren, follows the story of an elf and how she gets sad because humans live short lives. We meet the 1,000-year-old elf, Frieren, who's come back from defeating the Demon King alongside the legendary party of adventurers made up of Himmel the hero, Heiter the priest, and Aizen the warrior. We've met them at the end of their 10-year quest to unalive the Demon King, and it's the most fascinating way for a fantasy anime to start. Once they've come back to the capital, they are celebrated for the great achievement that they've done, and then they they all split up, and Frieren goes away to study more about magic, and hopefully she'll come back. Decades pass, and the rest of the party ages, and Frieren comes back with the realization that it's a bit too late now to spend more time with her friends. That's the great tragedy of Frieren, that as an elf, the humans for which she develops a relationship with just aren't going to live as long as she does. Which is the key Christian value here, that idea that we should be valuing the time that God has given us, and even if God has given us more time than others, then that's just even more reason for us to be a blessing to those whose time is short. This is the setup for Soso no Frieren, and as the old party members age and pass away, Frieren forms a new party and develops new friendships with her apprentice Fern, the warrior Stark, and the priest Sign. And this is where the bulk of the story is, following the really mundane day-to-day living of Frieren and her merry gang. Though I haven't even mentioned the best part of this anime, which is that it's completely anti-demon. In an era where demons and Satan are being constantly promoted or being painted as quirky and actually misunderstood in the West, it's so refreshing to see an anime like Soso no Frieren just say it how it is, that demons are evil and they need to be exterminated. It's absolutely brilliant, and honestly the best part of the anime. It's quite calm in some parts, picking up the pace as they battle in other episodes, but overall it's a very wholesome fantasy anime, which I highly recommend for you to watch. Number 4, Violet Evergarden follows the story of, who would have guessed, Violet Evergarden, a girl who's come just right out of the Great War and learns to integrate into civilian life. We meet her damaged and quite honestly broken. Like physically broken because she's lost both her arms, but also emotionally because she doesn't quite know how to feel emotion. Violet's a girl who's known only fighting all of her life. She doesn't know how to do social interaction. She comes off as very uncaring and lacking any feelings, except for the general who raised her and said to her that he loves her. Now this general is very much and totally alive, and while Violet's in hospital trying to live as normally as possible, she holds on to that hope that this general is still out there somewhere and will eventually return to visit her. But as for Violet, she ends up working for this other guy who is friends with that general, and ends up working for this postal company. For the Christian, it's often said that we're made in the image of God, and that's really the journey that we see Violet take. The way she acts at the start of the series is one where she can't really comprehend forgiveness or kindness or love, and it's really unfortunate that that's the case. It shows the scars that war and conflict can bring upon a person. The key selling point of this anime is this particular job, which could only exist in this particular time period. Violet, through luck and happenstance, ends up working as an auto memories doll. That is a person who writes letters, particularly for those who don't know how to read and write. And it's through this vehicle that Violet learns what it means to feel emotions as she writes letters for these various people. And it's through that experience that Violet grows closer and closer to that image that we have in our mind of a person who is made in the image of God. Number 3, Clannad and its sequel counterpart, Clannad After Story, is a slice of life / romance which brings with it a wave of emotions which hit you like a tsunami when you watch it the first time. Now I get that the first season may not be for everyone because it really leans into the slice of life genre, but trust me, it might be slow, but season 1 does the work of really getting you to care about these characters and preps you for the absolute wild ride that season 2 brings. The story follows these two characters, Tomoya, a high school delinquent who hasn't really got anything going for him, and it doesn't help that his father is an alcoholic. Nagisa, a girl who gets sick really easily and because of that has had to redo a year of high school. We follow them as they develop their friendship and as they go on with their shenanigans on a daily basis throughout high school. It's very wholesome and very cute, but the Christian element here is that selfless love for which Tomoya has in trying to help the other girls of this anime wherever they're at in their lives. It's mainly because he's got nothing else to do and doesn't really want to focus on school, but it's cool to see that selflessness. Even though Tomoya is from a broken family, he still desires to make the lives of the people around him better. So we journey with these guys as they go throughout high school to the point where they grow up in Clannad After Story, and it's then that real life hits them all squarely in the face, and that's the great appeal of Clannad. We've just spent time with them for 24 episodes, so when they all go out into the real world, like, you care about these guys. You want Tomoya and Nagisa to have a successful marriage. You want Tomoya to have a successful career in order to provide for his family. You want Nagisa to do her best in keeping the home. So it's even more Christian in the sense that it models a really good traditional marriage where husband and wife support each other. Though also, without giving too many spoilers, there's this massive bit at the end about reconciliation and persisting in the face of tragedy, for which Clannad again does perfectly. So I know I'm being extra vague here, but it's better that I say less so that the series really impacts you as much as it did for me. Number 2, if there was ever an anime to call a Christian anime, then Vinland Saga would be that show. You've got this combination of themes of forgiveness, of honor, of selflessness, all working together in this one story. The anime is set in medieval Europe during the Dark Ages, in particular during the Viking invasions of Western Europe. We're met with this young Icelandic boy, Thorfinn, who has had dreams of becoming a Viking warrior, yet while his dad, Thors, is incredibly accomplished, he's an absolute model father who is able to protect and provide for his family while also conveying values of mercy and charity. Yet while his dad is strong enough to fight as much as possible, Thors seeks peaceful resolutions. That of course deeply confuses the young Thorfinn, who believes that violence should be the first and only option to be considered. Then the anime moves a bit further, where we find father and son going off on a trip to mainland Europe. They're ambushed by raiders, and as a result, Thors is killed as a sacrifice to protect the rest of the crew and his son. Thorfinn enters into a fit of vengeance and rage, and that's what he spends the rest of his childhood with, training harder, getting stronger, so he can get back at the guy who killed his dad. And the question that's left for the audience is this: is what Thorfinn is doing right? For the Christian, there comes that question of whether self-defense should be permitted. Are we at the liberty to use violence? What do we do when injustice has been perpetrated? What if that act of injustice was done against members of your family? As I mentioned, we get these themes of forgiveness, honor, and selflessness, and not to mention a lot of Christian characters who are also caught in the fray of all of this chaos during the 10th century. Number 1, Bocchi the Rock is an anime about introverts, which is why I adore it. We meet Hitori Goto, or she's also nicknamed Bocchi, and how she grew up without any friends because of her social anxiety. Though she gets the idea of trying to learn how to play guitar so that she can totally form a band with a couple of friends, and that's how she'll move forward beyond her currently mediocre experience. But middle school passes and high school comes, and she's still really skilled at guitar, but still oh so unprepared to try and talk to people. However, as a result of a chance encounter with a wild Nijika, Bocchi ends up joining this band, ends up finding this new community, and that's where she finally finds the friendship that she so desires. That's the main Christian virtue which I take from this notion that all of us desire some form of community, and that it's certainly possible even for the most introverted of society. The way the introvert experience is also so well captured and is done in a way which is very creative, incredibly engaging, and just outright funny. Take for example how Bocchi remembers the pain of being forced to participate in school sports carnivals. The anime transitions to clay animation for a second, then to the 1980s, just to really accentuate the painful experience that Bocchi's endured through. There are numerous visual gags just to really communicate to the viewer how the introvert often feels in situations like this. The talking to oneself, the exaggeration in one's mind, it's all incredibly relatable, but also good at conveying that sentiment to people who may have never experienced that before. Not to mention the amazing music as well, and the general band setting itself, it's all very cool and quite easy to follow along with. For the Christian, we watch this and hopefully realize that if we are introverts ourselves, then the solution is to go out and take that first step into finding community. And for the Christians who are more on the extroverted side, to be like Nijika, to be looking out for those Hitori Gotos in our lives who may not have the courage to take that first step. If you guys have any more Christian anime recommendations, then please do leave them in the comments below. You may have also noticed that I haven't included any romance anime or movies in this video because I'll be doing a separate video covering those, and they'll be available here when they do come out.